"Don't go inside yet." My housekeeper caught my elbow before I could reach the back door, and the look on her face made me stop cold. It was 6:15 in the morning. I hadn't slept well. I never do before something large. The engagement dinner was tonight. 40 guests. The good china I'd only used twice since my husband died. My daughter in a dress she'd bought 2 months ago and hidden in the back of her closet like a Christmas surprise. I should have been thinking about centerpieces, or whether the caterer had confirmed the head count. Instead, I was standing on the back porch in my robe, with a cup of coffee already going cold, staring at Edith's face. "What is it?" I asked. She glanced back toward the kitchen window. Her voice went to almost nothing. "He was in the study just now, on the phone. He didn't know I was in the hallway." She stopped, swallowed. He said, "After tonight, it's done. 6 months, maybe less, and we walk away with everything." The morning air felt different after that. Heavier. Who was he talking to? I don't know. Her hands were wrapped around a dish towel, twisted tight. In 18 years, I had never seen Edith's hands shake. But there's something else. Something I should have told you last week, and I didn't, and it has been eating me alive. I set my coffee on the porch rail. "Tell me now," I said. "Her name is Edith Crane. She came to work in this house when my daughter was 10 years old, when the rooms felt too large for 3 people, and I was still learning the difference between running a business and running a home at the same time. She stayed through every hard year. The slow one when my husband's health first started turning, the terrible one when it went fast, and the long, hollow one after. She knows which drawer in the kitchen sticks in winter, which phone numbers I keep written on paper because I don't trust myself to remember them in a crisis, and that I cannot think straight until I've had 30 quiet minutes in the morning, before anyone speaks to me. She is not a woman who exaggerates. She is not a woman who panics without cause. So when she told me what she had seen the previous Saturday, I believed every word. She'd been at the farmer's market buying herbs. Griffin had been 3 stalls down, and he was not alone. He was holding the hand of a small boy, blonde, maybe 5 or 6, sneakers with little lights in the soles, and a woman stood beside him. Not my daughter, not anyone Edith recognized. The woman was laughing at something Griffin had said, leaning into his shoulder, with the ease of someone who had been leaning there a very long time. The boy looked up and said, "Daddy, can I get the strawberries?" Edith had reached for her phone without thinking. Some instinct. She took the photo before she had time to reason herself out of it, and then spent the rest of the week trying to talk herself into believing there was an innocent explanation. She handed me her phone. The image was sharp. Griffin in the morning light, one hand wrapped around a little boy's. The woman beside him half turned toward his shoulder, completely comfortable. His face was turned slightly toward the boy, and his expression was open in a way I had never once seen across my dinner table in 2 years of watching him. Unguarded, unperforming, real. She took the phone back, scrolled, and handed it to me again. A social media profile, public, not private. A woman named Sabrina Archer. In her profile picture, she stood in a backyard with the same blonde boy, and the caption read, "My whole world." A post from 8 months back. 7 years together, and this man still makes me laugh every single day. The photo showed Griffin Malloy holding a spatula in a kitchen I had never seen, grinning at the camera like a man who had nowhere else he needed to be. My hands were completely steady. That surprised me. Inside, something that had been under pressure for 2 years cracked cleanly along its seam. All the small moments I had noticed, and then deliberately set aside, came back at once. I remembered a Sunday lunch about a year into the relationship, when my daughter had stepped away to take a call, and Griffin and I had sat across from each other in the dining room. He had looked at the painting on the far wall, my husband's favorite piece, a landscape we'd bought on our 20th anniversary, the one I have told my daughter, since she was a girl, will never be sold. And he had said, "That must be worth quite a bit by now." Not it's beautiful, or your husband had wonderful taste. Just that must be worth quite a bit. I had smiled and changed the subject and spent the drive home telling myself I was being an ungenerous woman who had simply been widowed too long to trust anyone new. I had been wrong to dismiss it. I had been wrong about a number of things. How long before he comes downstairs? I asked. 20 minutes, maybe 30. He's still in the shower. Then we need to move. My husband's study is exactly as he left it. I have kept it that way on purpose, partly sentiment. Mostly because the room is organized the way he organized everything, and I think more clearly in it than anywhere else in the house. I sat in his chair. I opened the county public records search I had bookmarked years ago when settling his estate, and I typed in Griffin James Malloy. It took 4 minutes. He was married, had been for 7 years, to a Sabrina Lynn Archer in Maricopa County, Arizona. No divorce filed, no legal separation, nothing. I looked at it for a long moment, 7 years. My daughter had known him for 2. There was a period, a sustained one, where Griffin Malloy had stood in my living room and talked about the future, and sat at my table and eaten food I had cooked, and looked at my daughter like she was something he had been searching for. And the entire time, in a county in Arizona, there was a woman who had been his wife for 5 years before he ever set eyes on my daughter. I called my attorney. He answered on the second ring, which I had not expected at 7 in the morning, and I told him in 4 sentences what I had found. He asked me to send the screenshot. I did. A pause. Then, before you do anything else, check the study. Anything with your daughter's name on a signature line. I had already been looking. In the bottom drawer of the bookcase, not hidden, just placed there, with the quiet confidence of a man who expected to retrieve it later that evening, was a manila folder, 3 pages inside, legal formatting. My daughter's name typed on the signature line. A limited power of attorney covering management and transfer authority over the family business assets. The business my husband spent 30 years building, the one my daughter would inherit. The one Griffin had spent 2 years asking careful, off-handed questions about at dinners, always framed as admiration, as curiosity, as the natural interest of a man becoming part of a family. I photographed every page and sent them to my attorney. I returned the folder to exactly where I had found it. Then I went upstairs to wake my daughter. She opened the door in her pajamas, squinting at me. She knew from my face that something was wrong, because my daughter has always been able to read me, even when I believe I'm unreadable. Put on your robe and come to the garden, I said. She didn't ask questions. She just said okay in a quiet voice and followed me down and outside to the wooden bench her father had bought the year we moved in. He had believed that hard conversations were easier without a ceiling. It turned out he was right about that, the way he was right about most things. I showed her the photograph first, then Sabrina's social media page, then the county record. I had thought about the order walking up the stairs. She needed to see the human face before she saw the legal document. The woman leaning into his shoulder. The boy with the light-up sneakers asking about the strawberries. Only then the 7 years on paper. She didn't speak for a long time. She held my phone in both hands and looked at the image of Griffin at the farmer's market, searching his expression for the version of him she had built her plans around. He has a child, she said. Yes. 2 years and he never, not once, she stopped herself. No. Her eyes filled. The quiet kind, not the dramatic kind. The kind that comes when something important breaks in a place you didn't know, was fragile, cleanly and without warning, and there's nothing to do but feel it happen. I let her sit with it. The garden was still around us. The hydrangeas we had planted together the summer after her father died. Because we needed something to do with our hands, something that would still be alive come fall. Were blooming now, pink and heavy against the fence in the early light. There's more, I said. I told her about the folder in the study. the signature line with her name. Her face changed. The grief moved somewhere quieter, and something harder came forward in its place. She was her father's daughter in that moment. I could see it fully, the way I sometimes can't for months at a time, and then all at once I can. It broke my heart open and reassembled it simultaneously. "He was going to ask me to sign it tonight," she said, not a question. "I believe so." Silence. The kind that means someone is building toward something. "I want to talk to him," she said. "Just me, not you in the room." "Ava." "I know what you're thinking." Her voice was steady in a way I hadn't expected. "But I need to hear it from his own mouth. I need to see his face when he doesn't have time to prepare." She looked at me. "Will you trust me with that?" My husband's voice in my memory from a long time ago. The hardest kind of courage doesn't need a witness. "Yes," I said, "I'll be right inside." She was in there for 23 minutes. I stood at the kitchen window. Edith stood beside me without a word. Twice I heard my daughter's voice rise. Not shouting, just the tone of a person who has stopped moderating themselves, and then settle again. Then a door upstairs opened and closed, and footsteps came down, and Griffin walked into the kitchen doorway. He looked at me, then at Edith, then back at me. He was the kind of man who had always presented well. Everything calibrated, nothing loose. In that moment, the calibration was simply gone, and what remained was not very much. "I think it's time for you to leave," I said. "If you'd just let me explain." "The folder is back in the drawer where you left it. Our attorney has photographs of every page, along with the county marriage record. If you'd like to discuss anything further, you're welcome to do that through counsel." I held his gaze. "You have 20 minutes to collect your things." He was out in 15. My daughter came downstairs 10 minutes after his car left the driveway. She sat at the kitchen table with her hands flat on the wood, looking at them. Edith set tea in front of her without being asked. "He admitted it," my daughter said. "He didn't try very hard not to." A short, flat sound that was almost a laugh. He said they were separated in every meaningful sense. He had language prepared for all of it. The documents were estate planning she'd misunderstood. The phone call this morning was a complicated family situation. He had answers for questions I'd never asked because he'd assumed I'd never ask. She shook her head slowly. He ran out of prepared answers pretty fast once I did. I sat across from her. After a moment, she unlocked her phone and laid it on the table between us. "There were messages," she said, "from a number I blocked 2 months ago. I thought it was spam." I leaned forward. "The first from 5 weeks back. My name is Sabrina Malloy. I know this is a shock. Your boyfriend is my husband. We have a son together. His name is Oliver. He's 6 years old. I'm not reaching out to cause you pain. I just thought you deserved to know the truth before things went any further. The second, 3 weeks later. I don't expect you to respond to this. I just couldn't stay quiet. He's done things like this before. Please be careful. Please protect yourself and your family. The third, 8 days ago. I heard there's an engagement party being planned. Please, for your sake and everyone around you, please don't let him do this." I read all 3 messages twice. My daughter watched me read them. "She tried to warn you," I said. 3 times. She pressed her fingertips to her eyes. "And I blocked her. I thought it was a scammer." She was quiet for a moment. "There's a 6-year-old boy asking where his father is every single day, and his father was sitting at our table telling me he wanted to spend his life with me." That was the moment that finally undid me. Not the documents, not the 7 years on file in Arizona, not even the photograph. The boy with the light-up sneakers asking for strawberries on a Saturday morning. Oliver, 6 years old, walking through all of this without the first understanding of what was happening, only knowing that his father wasn't always where he was supposed to be. I reached across the table and put my hands over my daughter's. "You don't have to do anything tonight except be here," I said. "I'll cancel the party. I'll make every call. You just breathe." She nodded. Then, after a long moment, "How did you know to look in the study, to check for documents?" "Your father," I said. "He always told me, when something feels wrong, follow the paper trail first. Let yourself feel everything else after." She was quiet. Outside, through the window, the garden was getting brighter as the morning opened up. "I miss him," she said. "I know, me too." We sat there while Edith put on another pot, and the caterer's number sat in my phone, waiting to be called, and the 40 guests who were coming tonight went about their Saturday mornings with no idea that anything had changed. That was 4 months ago. My daughter started therapy in February. She made the appointment herself without me suggesting it, which was how I knew she was going to be all right, before I had any other evidence. She sleeps through the nights now. She's taken on a new account at work. The most complex one she's handled in years, she says. And when she talks about it, there is something in her voice that was missing for a long time. Last Thursday, she called me just to talk, no specific reason, and we were on the phone for an hour about nothing at all in particular. And when we hung up, I sat holding the phone for a minute, just feeling the specific gratitude of a mother who was afraid and then wasn't. Sabrina Archer filed for divorce in January. I know almost nothing about her circumstances and did not pry. But I hope things go well for her. And I hope Oliver, 6 years old, blonde hair, sneakers with lights in the soles, gets to understand what happened to his family gradually enough that it doesn't set anything in him permanently wrong. He walked into all of this without deserving a moment of it. Griffin, to my knowledge, has not attempted contact. My attorney walked me through the timeline of when the power of attorney document had been drafted. 6 weeks before the engagement party. Which means Griffin had been preparing this before my daughter was fully certain she wanted to marry him. He had decided for her. He had been certain before she was, and the certainty was not about her. I don't let myself sit too long with what might have happened. If Edith hadn't been at the farmer's market that particular Saturday, if she had talked herself out of taking the photograph, the way she almost did 3 times before she finally kept it, if she had spent one more day losing her nerve before telling me. She told me once, over tea, that she'd almost deleted the photo 3 separate times. Each time something stopped her. She couldn't explain what. I told her I thought I knew what it was. She said she didn't believe in that sort of thing. I said I know, and we both sat there for a moment, quietly believing it anyway. Now I make the tea on Saturday mornings. Edith sits at the table. It took 4 Saturdays of arguing before she gave in. She thinks it's unnecessary, that it's too much, that it isn't the natural order of things. I told her that's exactly the point. The hydrangeas are blooming again. They look, if anything, more settled than they did last year. Like they've finally decided this is where they belong. I think about my instincts sometimes. The 2 years of small warnings I noticed and chose to walk past. The way Griffin's warmth always felt directed rather than natural. The way he answered questions too smoothly. The way he looked at certain rooms with a specific quality of attention that had nothing to do with admiration. I noticed all of it. And I looked at my daughter's happiness, at how alive she seemed when she talked about him, and I chose to call my wariness old age and move on. I won't do that again. Not for any reason, not for any person, not with any amount of good intentions behind it. There will be someone else for my daughter. I believe that fully. She doesn't quite believe it yet, and that is its own kind of right. She's not supposed to believe it yet. She's supposed to be where she is, which is finding herself again after 2 years of building around someone who turned out to be a house of cards. She is doing that. Quietly, steadily, without a lot of announcement. She is absolutely her father's daughter. And me, I keep sitting in my husband's chair when I need to think. I keep following the paper trail when something doesn't add up, the way he taught me. I keep making Edith sit down on Saturday mornings and let me pour. I keep looking at things directly instead of looking away because looking away is gentler. I ignored what I already knew for 2 years because I wanted my daughter to be happy. The love behind that decision was real. The decision itself was wrong. And the difference between those two things, between loving someone and actually protecting them, that is the thing I had to learn again at 63 years old, in my husband's study, with a county public record pulled up on a laptop and a folder of fraudulent documents sitting in the bottom drawer of the bookcase. The truth doesn't wait. It doesn't care about timing or dinner parties or 40 guests who already confirmed their RSVPs. It just sits there, quietly, in the places where you're not looking, until someone brave enough to look finally does. Sometimes that someone is the woman who has worked in your kitchen for 18 years and almost deleted a photograph 3 times before she didn't. Sometimes it starts on a back porch, 6:15 in the morning, with a hand on your elbow and 6 words you weren't expecting. Don't go inside yet. And sometimes those 6 words are the only thing standing between your family and a very long disaster. Trust what you know. Act before it's too late. And when you're not sure, turn to the person who has been watching longer than you have, who loves your family without needing anything from it, who took a picture on a Saturday morning because something in her said not yet, don't delete it yet. Because that person already saw what you were too close to notice. And she is absolutely worth more than a cup of tea on Saturday mornings. Though I intend to keep making it anyway.